Hi, Pat Battle here with Living Web Farms, doing the next installment of our Resilience Daily series, which we do in collaboration with the Organic Growers School. And now I'm going to talk about leaf mold. Leaf mold is an amazing resource and, in my view, the right way to deal with leaves. I hear lots of people talk about using leaves in their compost pile, and I guess that works if you're doing a cold compost pile. The problem with cold compost pile is if you're using kitchen waste, you end up having ideal situations for what are called vectors, also known as rodents, and that's not so good. If you're trying to get a hot pile with leaves, the problem is that leaves tend to mat and they exclude the air that's needed for the anaerobic process which causes piles to heat up. And maybe we'll go into more detail about that in another edition of Resilience Daily. But right now I'm going to speak to what I like to do with leaves instead, which is pile them up. Now, this is a little bigger pile than most people have, and that's because we have enough land to offer landscapers a place to dump the leaves that they clean up in the fall. And if you have the space for that and you can reach out to some landscaping companies, you will gather a huge resource for building your soil. We use this for mulch all the time. And right now I'm going to harvest some of the more rotted leaves, which are going to be at the base of the pile and deeper in, as an addition to my woodland planting mix. I'm going to be starting a bunch of seeds for our stream restoration process. This is the second round. I just potted up about 55 pawpaws, and I only got 10 northern pecans, but I'm quite happy to have 10 northern pecans. And I'm going to put more seeds in each pot and see if I can get even more of those. And I'm going to make a mix that's going to include pine bark and some pond muck that we were able to get delivered to us when somebody was cleaning out their pond, rock dust, leaf mold, and a little bit of things like azomite and other little bit traces of minerals. Not very much of those at all. Mostly the ingredients I just mentioned. Okay, so the only reason that this is leaf mold in only 1 year is because of the size of the pile and the heat that's generated by the size of the pile. And so it's pretty good stuff right here, but I'm going to go in a little deeper and try to get even more rotted leaves. It also helps if these leaves were ground up. Some of the landscapers have a way of collecting the leaves that grinds them up as they get them. Okay, so that's a little more rotted, and that's what I'm going to gather. I want about a bucket full for my mix. Take it in there and gather them out. But you don't have to watch the whole process. You can know that I'm going to keep doing it. And for homeowners, I recommend that you find a place on your property, or even renters if there's a yard, where there's a tree, and I recommend that you go to mycorrhizal applications and search their website carefully, because if you look hard enough you'll find a page of their website that gives you a list of all the trees that have the same mycorrhizal relationships as most of our vegetables, with the exceptions of the beet family and the brassica family, right? The broccoli, collard, radish type family are the beet, chard, spinach family. All the other vegetables that we normally grow have a mycorrhizal relationship, and it's the same one. It's the endo relationship, right? The vascular or buscular mycorrhizal relationship that a lot of trees have. And if you put your leaves under one of those trees and let them sit there long enough to rot really well, which is longer than this is actually, you'll have some of the roots growing up to get the nutrients from that pile. Those roots will be, quote, quote, infected or inoculated with those mycorrhizal fungi. Those fungi will make spores, and you'll have a chance of, when you use your leaf mold, moving that beneficial mycorrhizal spore to the garden site where you're going to grow a plant that depends on it to really thrive. So if you can find a tree that has the right relationship. The tree that we found when we first did this happened to be a holly, an American holly. But there's a lot of trees that have that relationship. Most of them do, as a matter of fact. And if you can do that, you're just going to have an even better leaf mold pile. And I would let it sit until it was even more rotted than this. I'm kind of pushing the envelope here because I need this stuff, and we've used up our leaf mold pile. I'll kind of rub these up and make them even smaller. So what I'm using is more stuff like that. That's what I really want. And the bigger pieces that aren't well rotted, I'll just kind of leave off. I'll put this over a wire mesh that we normally screen compost with, and I'll just rub it really hard and get the finer stuff. And I recommend that you don't have to do that because you build up a pile every year, and so this year's pile you won't use. Next year you'll use this year's pile, and every year after you'll have a pile from the year before that's nicely broken down. All right, remember to check out our Instagram at Living Web Farms.